When you think of behavior, and I know you've already talked a lot about the sequencing and the discussions, does anything else come to mind? For me, I'm thinking about that these are obviously upfront conversations, right? We're starting with this before we do anything else. But how else do we make sure we're doing the right thing at the right time and in the right order here?
Well, you look at your sales steps, right? And we call it sales templating, right? So you look at each step and you basically ensure, based upon this approach, that there are certain things that the customer must do, or prospect, and you, the sales team, have to do in order to advance it through the sales cycle. So here's a clear example. Most technology companies have pre-sales engineers that do the demos and the more detailed dives. The first step that's inserted to make sure the behavior is okay is that as a systems engineer, if you ask me to do a demo, I'm looking for what was the business outcome they said they wanted to see in a demo that would make them spend the money with us, not go through an alphabetical order, all the features, and see if one lights their fire.
Right.
And so when you bring everybody in the team on board with that, it keeps everybody else honest, but it makes sure that the behaviors are all in sync with, hey, I'm looking for this, and the future asked question of, so if we showed you in a demo the feature that you think is needed, or the outcome you think you need to bring in that amount of revenue, what happens next? If the answer is crickets chirping, and then we'll think about it, then based upon this value track, you need to stop the sales cycle because nothing's going to happen. If you found someone who has a real business problem and they have the personal pain associated with, the natural prospect behavior should be, well, if you show me that you can solve it and it's 5x to 1, then I'm going to go ahead and at the very least go make sure that I request the money and try to spend it. Right. And then there's other actions you take with them to figure out, well, before we do that, maybe you should go and find out what is the hurdle rate you would need. Is it 5x, 6x or more? So we know how much pain we need to uncover if it makes sense to go forward, because you don't want to go forward and lose. No one wants to go to the CFO, ask for money and get turned down.
Right. And I think that's where we have some interesting things too. And I don't know how much you want to get into. Well, let's move to it. Sandler techniques and stuff here too, because bracketing comes to mind for me, and a few other techniques that I'm assuming if we have that 5x, 6x return, we're not getting penny pitched on the budget as much as if it's much closer. If it's 1.5 or 2x, then people start getting nervous and they'll start cutting that down a little bit. And we want to make sure that our ask is above what's actually needed. You mentioned, using all of the money, but we certainly don't want to use more than we asked for if we're trying to prove this ROI case. Is that right?
Well, it's the ROI is a formula. It's R, the return, over I, the invoice or the investment. So the first natural reaction of a salesperson is when someone flinches at it is to say, well, if I make the I smaller, then it will look better. How about going back and making the R bigger? And a common flaw we see in non-Sandler trained salespeople, as you know, is I don't like to talk about price. It scares people off. I keep it to the end. Then I surprise them with the price, hope they don't fall off, right? If you look at the approach we just outlined, your very first conversation is, listen, you're going to invest in us. Our solution is about 150 grand for XYZ company. In my experience, if we don't find 5x that, 750 to $1 million in recurring expenses, it's going to get shut down, either as not being enough to distract the IT department, or we have other sources that we'd like to spend that money with. So it makes sense that for us to proceed, we have to think about what type of outcome could deliver that for your company, and then get them talking about it. But you've stated up front what the price is. At the end, for them to say, well, now can you lower the price? That just means you didn't find enough R along the way. You have to have a mindset, which is the price is the price. It makes sense whether you have enough return or not. Not everyone is a prospect for your solution.